Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new weekly session with myself, Dr. Shonpal, where we talk about interesting topics, and we do it every Thursday. It's obviously a Thursday in the evening, and we're covering a new topic: is how to tackle or combat Zoom fatigue. Yes, Zoom fatigue. So I want to give you a bit of introduction about myself. I'm Dr. Shonpal, and Dr. Shonpal. I've been a doctor for about 11 years, and I've worked in the UK. I trained in the UK. I worked in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and refugee camps. And in the refugee camps, I've really got to grips and developed a real passion for understanding root cause medicine. Because essentially, in refugee camps, you don't have expensive blood tests. You can't do blood tests. You don't have expensive scans. You purely have your hands, these two hands, and a stethoscope. And early with those things, was I able to find out what was going on with people, and I had to help them in simple ways, really. And obviously, there's things you can do, but that really started my journey into root cause medicine. And I'm very, very passionate and very fortunate to develop that real passion about preventative medicine. So rather than just going around the circles or going around the fringes, trying to find out what the root cause is. I'm a medical doctor, and as I said, I've been a doctor for 11 years, but of course, this is just general advice. If you have any medical problems, you should seek help from a medical practitioner. So yes, that's a bit about me. And you can find all the information on my website, www.drshonpal, that's drshonpal.com. I do regular blogs. If you have any questions, you can always message me. I'm giving out information. So this will hopefully help people, because I'm really passionate about helping people. And I hope that, prevention is the cure for me. So feel free to write down comments down below and give us any messages and feedback. That's not a problem. And we'll talk about how to combat Zoom fatigue. Okay, so a bit about Zoom fatigue. So if you think about it, we're also going to have a special guest on the show today. It's going to be the Mindful Doc, and she's a doctor. She's also a mindfulness practitioner who's trained in mindfulness. And she gives regular talks to medical students, schools, and other people. And she'll be joining us, which I'm very excited about. So make sure you stay tuned. So what we're going to talk about is how to tackle Zoom fatigue. Of course, if you've got any more comments and messages, feel free to message me down below. So if you think about it, before COVID, we used to go to work, get in our cars or go on the trains, drive to work, meet our colleagues, go on the computer, but have chats, meet people, have physical contact, not, meet people face to face, as opposed to this virtual contact that we're having now. Then we used to go and meet our families. Also, in the evening, we used to go catch up with our friends and family. Generally, we've been using, we're not on the computer all the time. But if you think about it, my life and a lot of my patients' lives and other people generally revolves around this, yes, a phone. So we tend to be on WhatsApp, because of COVID, on WhatsApp or on Google meetups or Zoom meetings or all these things. And it's funny, this is actually filming on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. So thank you for everyone who's joining. But the ironic thing is I actually bought a Zoom account today to facilitate this meeting on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. So that's quite ironic. I'm talking about Zoom fatigue. So is Zoom fatigue real? Well, actually, it is real. About a month ago, we had a medical paper that came out by Stanford University that discussed the psychological impact of being on Zoom for a number of hours and the effects it has. So it is very real. If I look at my own life, I'm a doctor. I normally go and see patients face to face, catch up with them, physically, examine them, talk to them. You get so much more when you see someone physically present than on a virtual screen. Body language speaks volumes, of course. So it's very important, we sort of lost that for the time being. And now I'm seeing patients on the video call, like I'm talking to you right now, on the telephone, and always I'm typing up notes. That doesn't just apply to me, but it also applies to a lot of other people around that you can see. I'm sure yourself as well, you're working a lot more, at home. Maybe this is your 5th Zoom call, maybe this is your 10th Zoom call, maybe it's your 2nd. But the point is, it's not just about the number of Zoom calls, it's about the duration of these calls. So it's important that you understand the science behind Zoom calls and learn and work out ways and strategies which I'm going to give you to help you focus on these things. Of course, you can always comment down below and message me. That's not a problem. So yes, so let's get into Zoom calls. So if we think about it, obviously there are some benefits of having a virtual conversation or a Zoom call. Some of the benefits are that you can virtually talk to people. It's very convenient. You can, be at home on the bed, or you can, just wake up in the morning, go onto Zoom and start typing and chatting. You can forget the commute, you forget the traffic. So it's very convenient. It's very easy. It's very fast, and it's very popular. But there are a number of downsides to that. If you think about it, most of the time I'm talking to you right now. Most of you are obviously listening to me, but we're sitting down on a desk or on a bed or a sofa, and we're actually very sedentary. We sit down, we think about things. Our digestion is reduced, as in digestive system reduces. We're more lethargic. We can tend to put on more weight. And personally, for me, a problem I've suffered recently is I've started developing dry eyes. My eyes become a lot more drier from screen time. That's one thing I've found. I don't know what other people have found out. If you've got any problems or anything, please feel free to message down below and I'll chat to you and we'll talk about this. But definitely I've found I've got a lot of dry eyes. So all these things are, yes. And then, Afro, the mindful doctor, was mentioning neck ache. Yes, that's very true. You do get a lot of neck ache as well. So that's quite a bad thing as well. We're going to talk about neck ache too. So thanks, Af. So, yes. So one tip, which the studies have also shown, is to switch off your video. I don't mean switch it off right now. No, what I mean is that sometimes you don't need to have a video conference. Switching off your video and having an audio conversation is a lot better because it allows you to have distance from your laptop or computer somewhere else. So you can actually have a conversation or a meeting with someone or many people without having to switch on the video. It's not necessary. So it's very important that you have that distance from the computer. Not only that, you are less distracted from other people's other emails, other messages. You are more present in that moment with the other person, or the people. So it's really important that you try and find ways to switch off that video when you can, when you're in meetings. A second really good tip is space. What do I mean by space? I mean, change your space. Our environment has a huge impact on our mental well-being and our physical well-being. So think of it like this. If you're, working in a very cramped office, there's lots of, traffic around, there's lots of fumes around. All these things have a huge impact on our general well-being. So by changing our environment, it's very important. So rather than being, a lot of people, including me sometimes, I work and, and sleep in the same area. And it's actually not very productive to work and sleep in the same area. Ideally, you should have a different area where you work in a different room. So a living room. I know it's not very practical sometimes for people in London with the space and the rents and all those things, but try and have a separate room for each thing. And ideally, if you can, have a separate, laptop or desktop for your work and also for your own, general leisure. It does have a huge impact on your general well-being because you're not checking emails, you're sort of not engaging so much on the computer. So that's very important. If you can, change your space. And that leads me to the second thing, or the third thing actually, which is hydration. Yes, hydration is very, very important. If you think about it, we are not expending that much energy when we're sitting on the computer and typing. Whereas if you're getting up, moving around, there's more expenditure on energy. You're burning more calories. It's definitely healthier. Your muscles will thank you. But really what's happening is we need to really make sure that we hydrate ourselves. That means drinking water more than you normally do, because actually we don't realize the effects of dehydration on our body. And when we feel dehydrated, when we feel thirsty, actually we've been dehydrated for a lot longer than when we feel thirsty. So it's very important that you hydrate yourself, because if you don't have enough water, you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you don't really function properly. Not only that, if you think about it, in the morning, everyone grabs a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, they drink it. Obviously that's a great ritual, but the problem is that it also causes you to pee more and you dehydrate yourself. So the other good thing about drinking lots of water is that if I keep drinking all the water, then I will actually have to get up and go to the toilet a lot more. So that's really good to create space from your laptop or desktop to away from the space. So hydration is very important. So talking about getting up, obviously, the last tip is get up, which I call, you just got to make sure you get up. So a really good thing is, think about it. You're sitting down for a long period of time. Meetings go on for hours. Sometimes, you feel rude to get up and move around, but it's really important that you think about it, that you actually should physically get up. I don't mean get up and have a cup of tea and get some biscuits. I mean, get up and do something which will help you. Ideally, I recommend 30 minutes to every hour, one should get up and try and move their muscles, whether that means simple stretches, perhaps walking up and down some stairs, some mindful walking, whatever you can do to actually help benefit yourself and just relieve those tired muscles and help to relieve the backache and also, as I've said, the neck ache, because it's really important that you move around as much as you can. One other tip I'll give you is to actually put reminders on your phone or on your calendar when you're working to remind yourself to get up every half an hour. I've actually got a Garmin, which is really important, which is really cool. And when I'm inactive, it actually tells me to get up and start moving. So that's also a very useful thing to make sure you can use reminders on your smartphone or smartwatch. Yes. So I've talked about switching off your video, changing your space, hydration, and getting up. Now, the last tip I want to give you is something called self-care. So it's really important to do strategies to help relax your muscles. So whether that's massaging your temples like this, giving yourself a little massage, or your neck, also moving some exercises on your head or your neck, doing some asana poses or yoga poses are really important. And if anyone wants any tips, they can always message me down below, and I can create a sheet if people want me to create sheets for exercises that one can do. Okay, so if you have any questions, obviously message me down below. And it gives me great pleasure now to introduce everyone to our special guest today. It's the Mindful Doc. She is a very experienced doctor. She's worked for a number of years, and you can check out her website. It's www.mindfuldoc.org. Hope I said that correctly. So I was going to ask her to come on, and I want to make
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Rishi. Yeah, good. Nice to join you again.
Yeah, we had a few technical difficulties before. So yeah, so I'm just going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, chat. Yep.
Great.
Allow to multi-pin there. There you go.
Lovely.
Can I see you now?
Good to go. Yeah. So Rishi, I actually learned quite some useful tips in your little talk there. I think Zoom fatigue, it's such an important topic. So when you asked me to talk about this, I thought, what a great topic to do. In fact, now, like, even if someone wants to just chit chat, they're like, should we just do a Zoom or a video or WhatsApp? And, it's like such a norm now. Now, I want to just home in on probably your last point about self-care, because my background is mindfulness and as a mindfulness practitioner. So I'm just going to zoom in on that. Now, in order to understand about self-care, we've spoken a lot about the problems. I want to talk more about the solutions. And obviously my solution is mindfulness. And I think it's one of those things that people have heard. They kind of know a little bit about it, but not really sure how it can help them and how to do it. So it's kind of, you might think of it as a fad, maybe something like to do with yoga, but actually it's a practice that's been around for centuries. It's an age-old practice. And I guess around the kind of 1980s, a lot of work was done by John Kabat-Zinn in America, and he really put medicine and mindfulness together. And he looked at it in a very scientific way, and he developed a program. And that's where medicine and mindfulness and my interest comes in. So although it's been around for a long time, there's a lot of evidence about it. And if we understand the human body, it works. And there's a whole host of benefits. To kind of see what it could do for you, I'm just going to backtrack a little. Let's look at the way we live our lives. So we live our lives in what we call the doing mode. We're constantly doing something. We're preparing for a meeting, we're cooking, we're writing an email, we're going somewhere. And this doing mode, it activates a stress response in our body. So essentially, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are turned on. Oh, great. When you need to run for a bus, you need that adrenaline. It gets the heart rate going, the blood pressure up, the blood oxygen, oxygen to the brain. So it serves a purpose. Now, the problem is we live our lives like that all the time. We're constantly either doing something or we're thinking about doing something. So even if you're planning mentally something, even if you're in a Zoom meeting, not physically in a Zoom meeting, your body can't tell the difference. It thinks it's actually there. The other problem is we can't switch off mentally. So you might have a work meeting on Zoom, and then once the meeting's over, you start to ruminate. You start to think of all the things you could have said, should have said. Oh, why did that person say that to me? And especially at night, we do that a lot. We think about the day. In fact, remembering has become a way of life. How do we break away from this? Because the effect of doing things all the time and not relaxing is we get burnt out. We get stressed, we get tired, our brain's constantly thinking, it doesn't let us sleep. When you go on a holiday, if you don't switch off mentally, you can't enjoy the holiday. I don't know if you've been on holiday before and you come back and you think, oh gosh, I need another one. Because you haven't switched off. Your mind still thinks it's in that stress environment. And that's a part of modern day living. We're constantly in this heightened response. So we've got these hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, in our system, and it's having physical effects. Acne, irritable bowel syndrome, migraine. So it's affecting us mentally and physically. Mindfulness is about being in the now. And we're very bad at it. It sounds simple, but we find it very difficult to do. We're either caught up in the past, like I said, or we're obsessed with the future. Whatever's going on tomorrow, you might already be planning it, predicting all the possible outcomes. Your mind is there to protect you. So whatever you do in life, whatever you plan, you're going to make sure it's to your advantage. That's how the mind works. We're caught up in the future and the past, and we spend very little time in the now. And you might think, what's the problem? Well, the problem with that is that if you don't relax, if you don't appreciate the now moment, if you don't go in the being mode, which is opposite to the doing mode, you won't enjoy life. You won't experience happiness. Those moments of pleasure, they'll just pass you by. And I used to live my life by a series of tasks. I used to have a checklist, right? I've got to do this, this, this. And once that checklist was done, I'm onto a new list. And that was my life every day. And I never experienced happiness or joy. When something was done, I never just stopped to think, oh, wow, and just dwell in the happiness of it. So, you get irritable, you get tired, you get all these effects. So mindfulness, another big component of it is to stop self-criticism. So we don't put any judgment. Now, I talked about those hormones. So with mindfulness, it's like you're turning off the tap to cortisol and adrenaline. And what we're doing is we're turning on the tap to happy hormones. So dopamine, endorphins, and these are the ones that are going to make you feel better. It lowers your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure. So it has all these wonderful effects. You feel much more calmer. This has all been proven. There's MRI brain scans of people who've done mindfulness. They've taken blood, levels, tests, and they've shown that people have cortisol and adrenaline less than people who practice mindfulness. So how do we do it? There are two types, formal and informal practices that we can do. So a meditation, a mindfulness meditation, put your headphones in, that's a formal practice. I try and say work from about 10 minutes, go up to about 40 minutes if you can. Find what works for you. Just be consistent. Like showering, eating, it becomes a life skill. You've got, ideally get to a place where if you don't practice it, you can't survive. That's where we should be. We spend an awful lot of time maybe in the gym, exercising, taking care of our bodies. We look at the food we eat. We want to, look after our health. But what are we doing for our minds? And everything comes from the mind. How you feel, how you look at yourself, the opportunities, it's all from the mindset that you have. So it's worth investing. So if anything you take from this talk, please look into mindfulness. The informal mindfulness practices, which you can do all the time, like walking, I think you mentioned eating as well. Just sitting here, you can be mindful. Even in a Zoom meeting, you can be mindful. And what all this does, it strengthens your mental programming, that overthinking, ruminating, all those negative thoughts. You're looking at life in a different way. So in mindfulness, we're not getting rid of the stresses in your life, we're getting rid of how you react to them. Okay. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what mindfulness is, what it does to the body. If anything, please look into it a lot more. I think, Rishi, you've got some information on your website, so do look into that, look into mine, have a look for yourselves, a lot of apps and things. Anything, please look at the benefits of it. It can do wonders. And the beauty of it is it's so safe. You need no props. You just need to turn up. You can do it anyway. It's very, very simple.
No, thank you so much for that, Af. It's very, very informative and very helpful. And just on a practical level, talking about mindfulness, you even mentioned you can do mindfulness on a Zoom meeting. So what sort of tips? So Nate, say we're talking now, right, on Zoom. What would you recommend, or how do we become more present talking on Zoom at the moment, or more mindful?
So to be more mindful is to incorporate the senses. So a lot of the time, mindfulness being present. So rather than my mind wandering, thinking, oh, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? I'm actually going to focus on you. So listening to the words that you're saying, looking at the screen, and also gratitude is a big part of mindfulness. So I'm thinking, wow, the person who invented the laptop, how amazing is that? The fact that we've got internet, how good is that? When you practice gratitude, it's a natural antidepressant. You automatically have a mood booster. And that's something that I can do sitting here right now. I can notice the way that my back is against the chair, that sense of touch, the way that my head is being held. I'm very much aware of my sitting position, what I'm looking at, the sounds that are going into my ears. So really incorporate the senses. It's anything, you can do anything and you can be mindful of it. And that's the take-home message.
Do you think there's, so for example, do you think there's like we have 5 senses. Do you think there's one sense that's like predominates? I know everyone's very different. Do you think one sense makes can kind of sort of engage you more? Because I always feel that touch is really important. So like if you're more present with, I find that sometimes I tell patients to be more present when they're talking to me and sit down straight and focus on keeping their back straight, because that really helps to ground you in a way, right? As opposed, I don't know, is there any senses that you think particularly work well for you, or you've given any other tips?
Yeah, I think what you said is it's very much personal. So when this grounding thing really works for me. So when I do mindfulness practice, I make sure I take my shoes and socks off because I want to feel connected to the ground. And I think being connected to the ground, that ground is supporting you every minute of your life. So to be thankful for it and be connected to the ground, I think is really important. So as much as you can, walk around barefoot and be thankful for what's supporting you in your life.
So we should just, so basically when we're on the Zoom call, we just take off our socks and shoes and just start typing and being more present.
Exactly. And no one knows what you're doing below your waist. You can go.
It could smell quite bad though, couldn't it? It depends on how cheesy your feet are.
Not mine. I don't know about yours.
They're perfect. They never smell. They're incredible. Go
on. I think for me, sound is a big one. So when I do mindfulness practice, I like to close my eyes. Again, you don't have to, but I find visual distraction is too much for me. So I get rid of the visual distraction, and I love sound. So I like to have music in the background. I find that very relaxing.
Do you not find it distracting though? So if you're in a Zoom meeting, how can you have music? And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, not for a Zoom meeting. If you're doing like a formal mindfulness practice, like if you're listening to a guided meditation, for example, then I like to have music in the background. So something like that would work. But the thing with mindfulness is there's no right or wrong. Your experience is your experience. So you make it how you want to. There's no judgment. If sound doesn't work for you, if touch doesn't work for you, it's absolutely fine. Everyone's journey is very different. So play around with things, see what works.
Okay, no, that's great. That's really helpful. That's super awesome. If anyone's got any questions or comments, like please let me know down below. I think we've had a few things actually. I think Deep was saying that the key word seems to be thankful, which is true. I think thankfulness is very important. And it tends to make a big difference. I think gratitude is also very important. And it changes your time when you're when you're in a Zoom meeting, you can be grateful for being there, as opposed to like, oh my God, that's a good way to think about it. I also got another message question from a person called Priya. She was like, I feel very low at times at the end of the day, and at times even at the start of the day. While most of the days it's okay, any reasons for the varied reactions? I mean, you can answer that and then I'll give my take as well. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think, remember I talked about that doing mode. So what do you do the first thing when you wake up? You probably reach for this, right?
Yeah.
As you reach for your phone, you've entered the doing mode. Your adrenaline, your cortisol, your stress response is activated. So let's be in that calm state. Really simple tip, don't reach for your phone straight away. Don't start going on social media. As soon as you do that, your muscles are going to feel tense, your heart rate's going to be elevated, and you're going to feel, it's not going to make you feel good. My tip to start your day, let's go back to gratitude, keep things simple, a natural mood booster. Write down 5 things that you appreciate. And the smaller the better, because when you're practicing gratitude and when you write it down, your memory is forced to recollect things that are good. And you think, oh, wow, actually, there's a lot I can be grateful for. So my gratitude list today might be, I'm thankful for the postman. I'm thankful for the rain that gave life to the plants. I'm thankful for my blinds so I can sleep at night because it provides darkness. I'm thankful for my pillow at night, supports my head. You know what I mean? It can be anything, it can be anyone. If you practice the gratitude, keep gratitude diary, it instantly lifts your mood. And you do that every day. That's a really powerful exercise. Mood, again, it's up and down throughout the day. I think at night, people feel particularly bad because, again, they're living by scanning the day. You're recollecting everything that's happened.
Yeah.
And the way the brain is you always recollect the negative things.
Yeah, it's really hard to focus on the positive. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, go on. So
I just saying that get out of that way of mode of thinking of constantly looking at the bad things, focus on the good things. It's really simple things you can do. Really, honestly, look into mindfulness. It will do wonders for you.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. I mean, thank you, Priya, for that comment. I mean, it's good that you're being honest about how you're feeling. But I think, it's also, it's important to be grateful and also to do mindfulness. But I also think, it's important how we channel our thoughts. And I call them the 3 problems of the mind, or I don't want to use the word cancer, but 3 cancers of the mind is where you compare, you complain and you criticize. Those 3 things, compare, complain, and criticize, are really what we tend to do every day. And sometimes when we try and realize what we're doing, when we're talking about someone or we're gossiping or we're doing these things, we're sort of comparing, and when you compare, particularly with Instagram and stuff, we look at everyone's life, it's perfect. And that comparison can really have a detrimental or negative impact on our own personal lives. Even without realizing, you just think you're down, but it could be because your friend's having a baby or something else. I'm not saying that's the case, but it does have an impact on our life. So my advice, again, like is to try and reduce your social media contact as well at times, and really focus on writing down your thoughts. And also with the gratitude journal is really good, but also write down your thoughts. Writing your thoughts down is a really good way to de-stress your mind, declutter it, and really allow it to organize itself clearly, to find out what the problem is. Most of us don't stop and start and just be and start really try and focus on what's going on in here. And that's what's really good about mindfulness, because it stops you from constantly thinking and being more present. But it's also very important to sort out those thought processes in our mind, because they're constantly on as well. So it's important to always don't try and compare, don't try and complain, don't try and criticize. Those are the 3 things I'd say, which would be quite effective. And of course, obviously, see a medical practitioner if you need to. Thank you, everyone, for your help. If anyone's got any more, if you have any more questions, or do you have any other comments at all? Af?
I love that 3 C's. I think that's a brilliant one. I'm going to use that.
Oh, copyright Dr. Shonpal. Hey, you got 3 C's. Cancers of the mind. Yeah, but it's really fascinating though how much our thoughts control our emotions, control our body, right? So it really does. Like even without realizing, we're constantly comparing. Like we both went to medical school. How competitive it is. What medical school did you go to, by the way?
It was called Guy's. It merged with King's later.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. So I went to Cardiff. So obviously better medical school, but much more down to earth, more grounded.
Beats London, so yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay, I'm from London too, but like it's very much like a competition. Like we're trying to always push ourselves to do better and better. And I think really the real competition is just with ourselves, no one else. If you get up in the morning, you're grateful, you just do your thing, whatever it is, the ritual. These things allow you just to focus on yourself and not compare. It's easier said than done, believe me, but I think writing down when you start comparing is a very good thing. So obviously we're giving you lots of advice here. I'm talked about switching off the video, changing your space, hydration, getting up in the morning, self-care. I've talked about, mindfulness, gratitude, and how important it is to be present. These are things that you can all take away. But one thing I'd always say at the end of my talks is it's really important just to take one thing away. and with my patients as well. There's so many things we talk about. Most patients, I do remember the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds of a consultation really. So just take one of those things away. Let me know how you're doing. Send me a message. Just focus on one of those things that you think would help you declutter and combat Zoom fatigue, because Zoom fatigue is real, and it's very important that we try and reduce that down and make the most of the time that we have. And I think from the next time I am going to take off my shoes and even when I talk to the patient, I take off my shoes, put my socks, take off my socks, and just feel more grounded. Because even now, when I'm talking to you, talking about the ground, I really have more of a understanding of my feet. Like I'm really feeling my feet. So really helpful and useful. Did you want to add anything as well? Oh, sorry, before we.
I think you covered that most of all. I think that idea of doing something small but consistent is key. Don't feel that if you, oh right, I missed it today. Don't be harsh on yourself. We have good days and bad days. Try something small, but be regular at it. I think that's the main thing.
Yes, and Hina sent me a message saying, will this be available for replay on Facebook, please? Yes, everything that I've spoken about today will be available on my Facebook Live. Just go onto Dr. Shonpal, click a like if you can. It'd be really helpful to click a like. Also like Mindful Doc as well. Click a like on her. Go to her website, go to Dr. Shonpal's website. Really good if you could support us. And it will be all available on Dr. Shonpal. So I do a talk every week. May do a bit more depending on how it goes. I've got a YouTube channel as well. But obviously, if you have any other topics you want us to talk about or me to talk about, obviously let me know. If anyone's got any more questions, let me just check if there's anything else to talk about. No, that's it. No. Yes, Sunita was like, oh, great. Daniel was like, oh, morning routines and rituals are helpful. Sunita was like, thank you very much. Thank you. Some great points to think about. So yes, no, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. And we really appreciate your time. And as always,
thank you, Rishi, for having me.
No, you're welcome. Thanks again, Nav. Take care. And as always, everyone, thanks again. And like I said, please, take care of yourself. Make sure you, obviously it's quite difficult with COVID around at the moment. So just take time to take care of yourself. Don't do everything. Just focus on one thing, whatever that is. And for me, I'm going to be a bit more mindful, a bit more present. Maybe drink a bit more water as well. So let me know what you guys will do. And yes, I will see you. We'll see you on this. Oh, I'll see you same time, same place next week. And as always, I say, take it easy. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.